What do you believe right now that's making you feel this way? And when you analyse it, you realise how irrational you can be at times.
Every single one of our major customers and minor customers all shut their doors overnight.
It's not sales per se, but the outcome of it is because people get to know you, they get to see you.
But, what's the culture like at the business? What do we stand for, the values?
I've got to tick that box on my personal development programme I don't really want to be here.
Scaling up a business isn't easy. If it were, we wouldn't have less than 4% of businesses scaling beyond 10 employees or around £1 million turnover level, and less than 1% beyond 50 employees. But the contribution that we make as owner-managers to our economies is immense and should never be underestimated. Yet it can be a tough gig for all of us at times, and only other business owners truly understand the challenges that we face. And through ScaleUp Radio, we aim to help make things a little easier. We interview guests who have been where you are now and may have faced some of the challenges that you are facing. And they offer their thoughts and advice on what has worked for them, as well as what didn't. And we've also combined many of the lessons from these interviews and also through working with hundreds of owner managers over the last 10 years or so into a practical scale-up handbook that we've called the Entrepreneurial Scale-Up System, or ESUS. And it's for owner managers like you and me as we navigate our own scale-up journey. And you can order a copy through your favourite online book retailer or by going to all the W's, esusgroup.co.uk, www.esusgroup.co.uk. How do you go from helping to keep our airspace safe to being the founder of an online community and sales platform for British-made crafts? Well, if you'd like to find out how that might be, then you need to listen to this interview with Susan Bonnar, who has set up and founded the British Craft House. And this is there's lots of great takeaways and lessons within this conversation. Something about keeping true to your values and not letting your standards drop, even when you might be tempted to do so. Also, the real importance, and Susan really talked about this, of building a social following and the importance of that and how that has really helped to build her online platform. But it's a really, really good bottom-up kind of interview from how we started from very small, humble beginnings to now getting to the point where we've got a really sizable business that is scaling beautifully, and Susan has a really clear idea of where she wants to go. So let's go across and listen to the rest of the story from Susan. Welcome to another episode of ScaleUp Radio. Today I'm here with Susan Bonnar, who is the founder of the British Craft House. So Susan, welcome to ScaleUp Radio.
Hi Kevin, thank you for having me on.
My pleasure. So looking forward to finding out all about you. So the British Craft House, there's a hint in the name, but what's it all about?
So we're a multi-vendor platform that is based obviously in the UK, and we handpick the best of British creatives from around the country and assemble them all in one place, really. So if people are looking for high quality handmade items, we've got them all under our roof. There are other platforms that do similar, but nowhere that has the kind of curated feel that we have, which makes it a really good shopping experience for the consumer.
So that curated feel is what you say differentiates you, separates you from others that are out there.
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, we were really lucky that we were one of 12 businesses that were picked to showcase at Downing Street at their festive market just before Christmas last year. And the Prime Minister and his wife came over to look at our stall, which was fairly amazing, with 200 sellers being showcased on it. Wow. And the Prime Minister's wife said, "So you're a bit like Etsy, but all really lovely handmade artisan quality goods." And it was perfect, actually, because I don't really liken us to Etsy, because Etsy is so big and so American. But she got it. She got the kind of idea of the fact of what makes us special, with us being British and kind of curated, really.
Great. That's your positioning, and I. So you're helping the smaller crafts type vendors to be able to sell online, but without necessarily, I suspect, the higher fees that Etsy might charge. Is that?
Yes, I mean we are quite different in that we offer different packages. So we have a big social media following, which is partly from what I did before the British Craft House. But we take a percentage on sales, and we charge a subscription fee. But certainly our commission is much lower than what Etsy ends up being. Somebody sent me a screenshot the other day of a sale that they had made on Etsy, and lots of our sellers also sell on Etsy, which is absolutely fine. And they had sold a £22 pendant, and the sale had been generated from an off-site ad, so either from Facebook or Google.
Yeah.
And Etsy slap on an extra fee if the sale comes from an external ad. So in the end, where they had 10 different
deductions,
fees involved in it,
and
sort of on each fee there was tax and kind of add-ons and things, and it ended up that they had paid nearly 30% commission on the sale, which is massive on a £22 pendant. There's not that much left for the seller. And Etsy have this really strange thing that if that same customer came back to the same shop anytime within a month, the seller would have to pay these increased advertising fees as well, even if they came back to them just because they had such a lovely experience. They end up paying the high fees again and again. So we're really just an alternative to that. And Etsy spend $2 million a day on advertising. So we're a very, very tiny fish in the pond that they're dominating. But we do things differently. We care about our sellers. We're customer service. We can talk to them, and we help them. And we have sellers that are very established and have been selling online for years. But we've also got people that come to us having never sold online before. And the way that they set up their shop is I have a series of videos, so they can kind of start and stop as they're going. And then we have a Facebook support group where if they get stuck, they can ask questions. So it's far more hands-on. And we have people that, join us with no experience of selling online. And, within a couple of weeks, they're up and running, and we've got them started on social media. So it's kind of a different experience, really.
Great. Yeah. So you really look up. So who's the ideal kind of craft business for you? What is there any particular ideal type?
Well, we have a real mix, actually, and we have some amazing people that joined us during COVID that had never sold online before. Sort of established glass artists that sell in Fenix and Harrods, and all of a sudden, as soon as the shops all closed and they had to go and collect all of their work in big boxes, and they do like the big country fairs, sort of Hampton Court, and the really, really nice kind of events, which obviously all got cancelled down. So these guys came online with us, and some of them had no social media and never had an online shop, and now they're really flying because obviously everything's back to normal. They're still online because it's worked for them, and they're back in their shops and back doing their country fairs. So for them, it's worked really well. But equally, we've got people who are artists who, paint amazing paintings. We've got one lady, Beverly. She's wonderful, and she makes amazing artwork. And she decided to basically downscale what she was doing to sell online, and so she does her art on wooden jewelry. So still kind of watercolors and things,
right,
but selling different things online.
Yeah.
So we have a real mix. I don't know that there's kind of a common strain. And I think we have. I think our youngest seller is 19, and our oldest seller, I think, is probably in their mid-70s. So a real mix.
Great. And the proposition for the end customer is that they know they're buying great British-made, crafted products. Yeah. Yeah,
absolutely. In fact, my mother-in-law shopped accidentally on the British Craft House because she was looking for something specific. Came in via Google, and didn't realise until she checked out that she bought it from the British Craft House, which is quite funny. But she was saying that she was blown away with the experience that she got, because when her jewellery that she'd ordered arrived, it was wrapped in tissue paper, it came with a handwritten note, and she was saying, oh, for sure they did that because you own the platform. And the seller has never mentioned to me that, you know, that they tied in with the surname, so I'm fairly sure they didn't. And I think that's different with you know, kind of buying stuff from the sellers really care. And a lot of them closed early for Christmas last year because of all the shenanigans with Royal Mail. They were, you know, they actually care that the parcels potentially weren't arriving for Christmas, and so they closed. So I don't think my mother-in-law had any, you know, unique experience. I think that we have over 40% returning customers. So, and that's not to the same shop necessarily, that's to the website. So I think that's fairly good, and certainly, you know, reflects on the kind of wonderful service that the sellers all put into not only what they're selling, which is amazing, but the way they kind of package it up and post it off and communicate as well with the customers. It's brilliant.
Yeah. So can you give us an idea of the kind of the stage that the business has got to in terms of some metric for proxy for scale, for size?
So we launched in November 2019, and probably in the middle of May, we should go through £1 million in sales on the website. Right. So we haven't really had a normal year, which is kind of the weird thing with launching just before COVID. You know, the beauty of launching an online platform and then the whole country being locked up and not able to go out shopping was kind of perfect for us. But, you know, and then last year was quite strange because I think people were spending money on holidays and eating out and meeting people. So we're kind of settling down now into a good steady flow of sales. But if somebody had told me when we launched that, you know, 2023 we would, you know, take our millionth pound with kind of sales on the website, you know, I would have been quite happy. Obviously I'm ambitious and I want more, but no, I think you know, for a business that's you know 3.5, it's all going pretty well.
Very good. And what do you see well, hesitate to ask in a way, but what do you see the future trend being? I mean, you know, do you see do you think it's going to impact you in terms of the economic situation at the moment?
I think it's quite strange and quite difficult to second guess what's going on. Really, we have a steady flow of high ticket items that sell, kind of jewelry around the kind of £150 to £200 mark. And I can only assume that there's a whole demographic of people that are completely oblivious to what's going on in the country and, you know, and have still got, you know, the money to spend. I mean, for sure, we have a lot of sales that come through our Facebook advertising, and I think there's much less impulse buying going on. I feel this year that perhaps people are making more considered purchases. So, so kind of less people scrolling at 10 o'clock at night and deciding on a whim that they might buy something. We've also noticed that there seems to be a bit of a trend where people are buying things that are more useful. So, you know, so for instance, we have a seller who makes really lovely kind of decoupage decorated like kitchen canisters and things, and people that make bowls for jewelry. So I think probably, you know, it's certainly something that we've discussed in our Facebook hub, the kind of ethos of, you know, what are people buying? What do people want? You know, if I normally make beautiful glass ornaments that just sit on a mantelpiece, what can I do to, you know, to try and convert that to a sale this year? And it's maybe that you make a little bowl that people put their jewelry in, so it's kind of has a purpose rather than it just being decorative.
Interesting.
Yeah. So, but again, you know, and that's just from kind of how things seem to be going at the moment. Lots of personalised gifts as well. We have a steady kind of flow. The things that you literally can't buy on the high street. You know, your paintings with somebody's name on, or jewelry with a name engraved on the back, that kind of thing, and cards where the words, the names, everything is kind of unique. So I think people are still very conscious of wanting to go the extra mile to buy something special, whilst being mindful of how much money they've got in their pocket to do it, really.
Yeah, very good. So what got you into this in the first place? I believe you've got a military background in the Royal Navy as an air traffic controller, so that seems a little bit different from what you're doing now. Yes,
it's a bit of a winding path, actually. I'll kind of précis it for you. But my husband was, I'm completely not crafty. I don't even think they did art at my school. I went to a traditional grammar school, and I think it was, just fairly traditional subjects. Certainly art was not my thing. Yeah. And when I was controlling in the Navy, my husband was away at sea for 7 months, and I had 2 little boys that were 5 and 2. And they were in bed at kind of 6 o'clock in the evening, and we lived in a lovely house in the middle of the country. And truly, I had absolutely nothing to do. And we kind of lived near a street in Somerset where there was a really nice kind of paper crafting shop. And somehow I ended up in there one day and thought I would have a go at making some cards. And I used to send, this is kind of pre-internet, pre-email, I used to send my husband something in the post every day. And it was easier to send a card than it was to write a letter. So I started just literally making very simple, low-tech, not really arty cards. And some of my friends have been to the house and seen them and said, oh, they're really cute. And then it was Air Day at Yeovilton, and my friend said, oh, I've forgotten my dad's birthday tomorrow. This was on a Saturday. She said, you couldn't bring me in a card tomorrow for me to give him, and also one from her son. So I took in a few because I thought she might think that they were rubbish. Yeah. And she bought 2. And people were saying, oh, can you do a card for my wife for next week? Can you do a card for my daughter? Can you do a wedding anniversary for my mum and dad? And literally, by the end of that year, so 3 or 4 months later, I probably sold a couple hundred cards.
Gosh.
Kind of within the control tower. But you've got to kind of picture the scene that this is sailors ordering something really special for somebody without having to put their cup of tea down. It was very low effort for them. All they had to do was give me a few quid. And then it was a bit strange. I lived in a little village. A neighbour said, "Oh, why don't you ask the Londis shop if you can put your cards in there? I wonder if they want your Valentine's cards, because your cards are lovely." And they said, "Oh yeah, brilliant, we'll stock your cards." And they were selling out every day. I was having to restock them. And then I thought, well, maybe actually, there's something in this, mm-hmm. And so I ended up selling in 12 different bricks and mortar shops.
Gosh, you must, and you were making all of these cards by hand yourself?
Yeah, so my husband came back from deployment, and I had this whole kind of card factory going on in our dining room, and I had this like kind of little business going on that was making me actually quite a lot of extra pocket money, which was kind of fun. So I carried on doing that. Randomly, I got a grant from a company called Connecting Somerset, and I think it was government based. And there was the whole, I lived kind of between Shepton Mallet and Frome, and I think there was a whole black hole there where nobody was on the internet, and they were giving away money to try and get people to have websites. Yeah. So they invested in me having a website, and then I was kind of off. So when I left the Navy, I realised that the problem with making cards was there wasn't really much profit in it. And actually, although I'd had my nice naval officer's wage with a bit of pin money, actually it kind of didn't even feed one of the 3 guinea pigs. It was right. A really low tech. So I kind of looked to see what I could do with my quite low tech skills. And then I started making guest books for weddings, which was pretty much the same level of lack of artistry, but I could charge much more. So instead of charging, £2.95, I could charge £29.95 because it was a book. Right. So then I started looking to see where else I could sell online other than my own website, because getting traffic to your own website at any time is hard. But this is kind of back in the middle of the 2000s when it was really difficult. So I sold on, well, I kind of sold where anyone would have me, actually. I sold on eBay and Etsy. I sold on a couple of really lovely handmade sites, Gift Wrapped and Gorgeous and Swanky Maison. They've all gone now. They've all folded.
Oh, right.
And I sold on Etsy, and I sold hundreds of books on Etsy. And along the way where I was selling, I was meeting lots of really amazing people. And lots of them were really rubbish at promoting themselves. And I realised I was quite good at promoting other people. It's much easier to promote other people than yourself. Really.
Yeah.
So I set up a team on Etsy, which is kind of where the social media for the British Craft House started. And I called the team British Crafters. And basically, we were a little corner on Etsy of British people. And every day we would promote each other's work. So I set up a Facebook page and Twitter. This is kind of pre-Instagram, which dates it. And we promoted each other on it every day. We realised at some stage that actually we needed to include other people, because else it would just get really boring, because there were only kind of about 12 of us in the team.
Okay.
And then our following grew so quickly because people wanted to be involved with what we were doing. And we had a really lovely engaged audience where people were buying things. So I know there was one day when there was a painting of a hedgehog, which wasn't someone in our team, that I shared to the page. And I think they sold 12 paintings kind of in about half an hour. So all of this I was doing for free. It was just kind of alongside my making. And then I think it was probably the second Christmas of the British Crafters Facebook page, and people started messaging me saying, I need to pay you to be on your page. When you last put me on, I took more sales than in the 6 weeks previously. And so I set up a system where people could pay a really small amount. I think it was like £1.50 through this very basic PayPal thing on a blog. And then I got, in fact, I went to a thing the other day with Theo Pathetis, the dragon from Dragon's Den. And he said, the worst thing you can be is a busy fool. And when I look back now, that's exactly what I was then. I was running around trying to help people, charging £1, doing lots of stuff for free. And I was definitely a busy fool. And I did that for quite a few years, but it just ran alongside my own making. And it didn't really, impact very much.
Okay, I'm sure there's a few of us listening that are thinking, I'm in that busy fool.
Yeah. Absolutely. So then I took a break for a little while, deciding that actually being a busy fool wasn't what I wanted to do. And then I took a little bit of marketing advice and came back with the idea of a promotions thing. But instead of people booking per day, they booked per month. And that was much better because it gave me a lot more control. All the while that this was going on, the numbers were increasing. So, I mean, we've got 50,000 Facebook followers now and 50,000 Twitter, 50,000 Instagram. But so kind of as I was weaving and hauling with the, the businesses and what I was doing with them, our kind of audience was gradually growing. Yeah. And so the relaunching with the month packages was much better. Kind of around that time, Etsy started doing some really strange things, like only promoting British sellers if they had free postage on all of their items, which my books cost nearly £15 to post to America. So I, for instance, couldn't put free postage on my items because they would have been £50 and nobody would have bought them. And it wouldn't have been fair to people in the UK if they were paying an extra £15 because of the American postage. And there are a few kind of British handmade sites. None of them have really done anything compared to Etsy. And there were a few popping up that were quite happy to take people's money that were really below par. And I was kind of getting a real feeling from the people that I was interacting with every day that there was just space in the market for a really good alternative to being on Etsy. So, somewhere where people could know that they weren't competing with kind of Chinese imports and people reselling things there was a watchdog program back along with someone who had a shop. They were buying things in B&M and just selling them on Etsy as handmade. They were buying things for £2.95 and selling them for £50. So I think people wanted somewhere that they knew there was a vetting process and that, that their handmade items would be valued.
Yeah.
And so, so I literally kind of had this seedling of an idea that maybe I could build a platform because, of course, as an air traffic controller from the Royal Navy, I've got all the skills to do that. No.
But you've got the project management skills.
Yeah, absolutely. So and I was training for the London Marathon, which was a bit of a crazy prospect anyway. And I was doing a really, really long run, and I can't remember what had happened the day before, but the seed was kind of planted and getting bigger. And on the run, I kind of basically did a business plan, and I came back, and my husband said, "Are you okay?" I said, "I've had this business idea. I've got to do this. This is what I'm going to do." And he's like, "Just sit down, have some coffee, have some," And he said, "Write something down and maybe think about it again tomorrow." And I woke up in the morning and I thought, no, I've got to do this. And
so it survived the overnight test.
Yeah, so that was February in 2019, and because I'm quite impatient, we launched in the November 2019. So yeah. So that's it. Sorry, that was a bit of a long ramble, but it kind of explains how I ended up where I did, but also explains kind of how the social media, which is now, the best engine that we have, it's such a good tool. But people kind of expect to build social media and engage following overnight, and sadly there's no quick fixes. I think it's just years of engagement and kind of providing things of value for people to look at them. We're quite lucky that as the business kind of changed direction slightly, that our following has stayed with us.
So take us through then. So you have this idea, which out on your run, you do the business plan, it survives the overnight test, and you're up and running within 8 months or something like that. So what are some of the milestones along the way, the stepping stones along the way?
So I got a loan from Virgin, and they were amazing. So it was a Virgin entrepreneur loan, and that came with a mentor. So that was really good because there was somebody kind of external who knew what they were doing, looking in and giving advice. And pre-COVID, I got to go up to the Battleship Building in London and do some kind of workshops on PR, how to get seen, and all that kind of stuff before the business launched. It was. I knew exactly what I wanted it to look like. I went with a local company to build the website, which they had amazing ideas, and the look and feel of the website is exactly how I wanted it to be. So that was really cool. And and it was brilliant that we managed to launch before Christmas, because I was concerned that website traffic for a gift site is always going to drop off kind of in the spring summer. So I didn't want it to kind of dribble into the following year and potentially kind of launch with a bit of a damp squib. In fact, because of COVID, I think it would have been a completely different story if we had ended up not being able to launch when we did.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So you got the website live. What happened from there?
So because of the way that I had designed the website, so from the outset on my British Crafters Facebook page, I was asking people what they wanted. And so it very much became the I think probably the best bits of all the places I had sold on, but also the best bits of the places that other people had sold on. And so I had quite a big waiting list that were ready to join as soon as we launched, which was brilliant because it was like having a little bit of a launch army, because everyone was excited. It was more, it was less a website that I had launched for other people, more a website that we were all launching,
right?
Because it was kind of part of what we've done. And some of the sellers that I have now, they had booked British Crafters promotion 10 years ago. You know, they've kind of been there for the duration, really. So that's pretty good. And we have a really good newsletter subscriber base, and so they were really loyal to kind of come in and be buying straight away. So I think for a new website, we kind of launched, fairly well, and that kind of allowed us to plant ourselves on the map pretty quickly, which was brilliant.
So how many people does it take to run it?
Well, it's me really, and me. But no, I do.
Three of you.
No. So I do outsource things. I have a wonderful lady, Diane from Addy and Crafts, and she's kind of been on my crazy ideas journey for the last 10 years or so. So she helped me to run British Crafters. We she was my kind of deputy in the team on Etsy, and she's been on the way. So she does all of our social media. So we have 2 packages on the website, and the higher package comes with some promotion that gets people into our social media feeds, and she does all of that for me, which is brilliant. And I outsource PR to an amazing lady in Southsea who's kind of young and vibrant and got amazing ideas and knows everybody. So she works really, really, really well for us. But apart from that, I pretty much do everything. I did used to outsource our Facebook ads, and I outsourced our Google ads, but to varying degrees of success, really. And so at the moment, everything is kind of in-house. My dream is, as we grow, that I can outsource the things that I like least. I have an accountant as well, because that was the first thing I like least.
Yeah. So is there a promise in terms of number of links or leads or sales that somebody gets when they sign up to one of your package? Do you give them any kind of brand promise or guarantee?
No, there's not. I think it's very difficult to do that when you're selling online. And we have sellers that join us and make a sale on the day that they join. We have sellers that join us and don't make a sale for a couple of months. Yeah. Usually that's because they sell in 3 or 4 different places. So it kind of waters down the effect somewhat. And I think that a lot of it depends on how much time. It's like anything. The more you put into it, the more you get out. But they're all different. We've got people who are working full time as an architect and just doing a little bit of things in their workshop in the evening. Actually, they don't want much out of their shop. They just really enjoy having the shop front. We have other people who are looking for sales because they need to put money in the electric meter. So I don't think it's possible to give a kind of guarantee. What we can guarantee is that we can get people to their shop and give them all of the tools that they need to try and convert the customer when they get to their shop. All the shops have got analytics built in, so they can see where people have come from. Every single item on the site is fed into our paid ads on Facebook, Instagram, and Google Shopping. So even on our lowest package that's paying less than 30 pence a day, they're getting all of this kind of all of this stuff that everybody gets. But no, it's quite curious, and as to what sells and what doesn't sell, and Yeah, unfortunately, I suppose it's exactly the same as if you had your work on a shelf in a gift boutique in a village. It's very difficult to second guess who's going to come in. And sometimes there's a lady on the site who makes the most beautiful tiaras. They're quite expensive. It's not what everybody needs for every day, but she sold one yesterday. And, I did a little dance here. I messaged her and said, some tiara. And she said even her husband was dancing around the kitchen because she'd sold one. But I'm guessing it was kind of a woodland beaded beautiful thing. I mean, I guess it just was exactly the right thing that this person wanted for a wedding or an event. So that's the right person seeing it.
Yeah, and that's part of your offer, isn't it? It's not for the masses. It's not somebody's going to sell millions of a mass-produced item. They're custom, bespoke, special, handcrafted pieces, aren't they?
Yeah, absolutely. So, and a lot of the sellers as well will work with the customer. So the lady with the beautiful tiara, if somebody said, I'm having a cherry blossom theme wedding, are you able to make me something? Then they'll kind of go through the design process together and come up with a design. And the beauty of the internet is that photos can go back and forwards until they decide on a design and then it gets created, and then that's super special then.
Great. So what are some of the things that you've got right that you think have led to where you've got to now?
I think definitely, although it was maybe slightly accidentally, growing an audience.
Yeah.
So, to be able to launch the website with a social media kind of across the board following of 150,000 is pretty good. We have newsletter that's heading for 20,000 subscribers now. I can put out a newsletter and pretty much guarantee about £1,000 worth of sales within an hour of it going out.
Right.
That's grown as as we've established as a website. But even when we launched, we had a really lovely newsletter subscriber base, and I think that I think that we are lucky that we. I think if you had a business and you launched a less related business, it might be that your social media following would fall off because it would be something different. If I changed to channel, I don't know, wild water swimming or something, I guess everybody that liked the handmade things would have just unsubscribed and just unfollowed my social media. But because it's kind of been on the same path, I think we've just kept people.
And is that the slight change that you were mentioning, where you said you were fortunate that your followers stayed with you, or was there another change of direction that you were referring to?
No. So I mean, literally, it went from promoting people. So when I was selling the British Crafters promotion, I was promoting Etsy shops and not on the high street shops, people's own websites. So obviously, once we launched our own platform, that then just became the British Craft House. Albeit a lot of the sellers that they were buying from before were now on the British Craft House. I think as well, potentially, our Facebook following, they've all been part of the journey as well. So we won an award last year, and people are genuinely, engaged and excited because they've kind of seen the business evolve over the years. And so, I think we're just, really lucky that we've got such a.
And what do you think? What do you put down to your success of building that audience? What do you think are some of the things that really made that work for you?
I think imagery. So, part of the team that I had on Etsy, everyone had really lovely images. And so when we used to share work from people that weren't in our team, I would only share them if it all looked very lovely.
Yeah.
And imagery is a really important part of the British Craft House now. So it's an application only website, and I turn away about 80% of people that apply.
Okay. And this is the vetting process that you were referring to.
Yeah. So, and a lot of that, sometimes it's because the items are kind of not quite as handmade as. There's kind of a fine line with handmade. On some sites, people will accept maybe a charm that's been bought in and put on a chain, that they'll kind of accept that as handmade. We kind of look for something a bit more traditional, kind of a bit more handmade. And also we have good images, and so we have got like an advice sheet if people are interested in reapplying. I don't offer it to them. If they ask me for it, I'll give it to them. And we have some of our most successful sellers who didn't actually get in on their first application.
Right. Yeah.
But because I run, advertising for every item on the site, you only need one bad image in a carousel on Facebook, and people will click to hide your adverts forever. So,
right.
I think that does help.
That's interesting. That's an interesting lesson, isn't it? Because often we're tempted to lower our standards because it would, you're turning away 80%. In one respect, you're turning away 80% of applicants, and you could be thinking, "Oh, that's a lot of business that I might be turning away." But you've been strong enough in your in yourself to know that actually that would be the wrong thing to do. But it's quite a difficult challenge for a lot of us as entrepreneurs, isn't it? As to where we, and it's our values that drive that decision at the end of the day, isn't it, generally?
Yeah, and it's the worst part of kind of my daily routine, saying to people, I'm really sorry, because sometimes, it's so for instance, a lot of people make handmade jewelry, and they buy the beads from amazing bead sellers, and they then make that into a design. And they're lovely. They look lovely, and it might be they've had 10,000 sales in their Etsy shop. But if you were to, for instance, there's a beautiful ceramic bead by a bead maker called Bo Hully, and she's fantastic, and it's got a bicycle on it.
Okay.
But if you were to Google it, you would find maybe 30 sellers that are all making jewelry with her really nice ceramic bike bead, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. But the idea, I think, with the website is that everything is different. So you wouldn't see two things side by side by different sellers, right, because the focal element of jewelry has to have been handmade by that seller. So it just means that there's kind of, I think, a better mix, and I think that's why people come to us now to shop, because they know that they're getting something that's like properly being made by the person that's going to be packaging it and putting it in, posting it to them.
Very good. So lots of things you got right. What sort of things would you do differently if you with a bit of hindsight?
Well, the lovely local company that I used to build my website, that kind of didn't work out in the end, because what I didn't realize is that they outsourced a lot of their work to an Indian development company, which actually was probably my naivety, because they were a small team thinking that they were going to be doing it all in-house. That then came with its own issues, that some of the work that was done wasn't of the best quality. And, there's definitely been points where the website's kind of been held together with kind of sticky black plastic and tack. Yeah. And it only takes like one thing to go wrong, and then lots of other things go wrong. And that's just because it wasn't, a lot of the work done initially just wasn't quite as good as it should have been. They then sacked me off in the middle of COVID, because actually, to be fair to them, they were a small team and they had small children, and it was a kind of nightmare time for everybody. So luckily, the company I'm with now rescued me. And they've been kind of pedaling hard to try and keep it all sticking together for the last couple of years. And they're now building me a brand new website, which looks pretty much like the old one, but it's all being designed in Dorset, which is wonderful. And that will launch just after Easter, and that will be much more robust. And also for me, the running costs will be much less, because there won't be this need every month to try and keep everything holding together at the back end.
Right.
It costs quite a lot to kind of keep it going and looking great from the front, but it's kind of cost a lot in time and their time to keep it going.
Very good. All right. So what do you what do you love most about what you do? I mean, I can sense the passion and enjoyment you get. But so what is it you love about what you do?
There's just so many things. I mean, every day there's kind of feedback that comes in, whether it's from the customers or from the sellers. There's a challenge going on Instagram this month by a lady called Joanne Hawker, and I haven't taken part of it, but a lot of the sellers have. And one of the sellers tagged me in a post last week, and the theme of the day was decision. And she'd done a post saying the best decision that she's kind of made as an adult was to leave Etsy and come to the British Craft House, where rather than being lost in thousands and thousands of similar products, she was able to have a space to breathe, and she had a support group. And, and it was just such a lovely post. I actually just reposted it, and I made it into a little graphic and put it on my Instagram. And I think it's got about 800 likes now. It's kind of gone slightly crazy. But I think that the fact that she feels supported, it's great that she's come over. It's great that she's making sales. But, the fact that she feels supported and that she has, kind of a safe space where, she can ask questions. Our Facebook hub is something quite special, really. We have a post every morning that says, "Hey, it's Tuesday. This is what I'm doing today. What are you doing today?" And people will just chat on that. And when people know when people's mums are in hospital or their children have got music exams, but also within the hub we do things like, so today I think there's a Twitter promoting things, so people can put a link to something, and the person below them will tweet it. So it's like a promotional network. But
so it's almost more about the community than it is about the products, isn't it?
Yeah, no, it's really nice. And one of the sellers said the other day that she thinks that the hub it feels like she's got colleagues, and she said you can kind of dip in and out, but if you choose to dip in, it's a bit like going to get a cup of tea when you're working in an office environment. You can kind of go in, you can see what other people are doing. But I think it's just really nice. People will come in with a design of something and say, what do you think? Does the handle need to be this size, or does it need to be this size? So it's a bit like having colleagues, really. And that's just really nice that it's a really safe place that people can kind of ask questions. We did a Secret Santa during COVID in July, which was quite random, wasn't it? Yeah. And I said to Diane, the girl I work with, who does the social media, I said, "Is it a stupid idea?" She said, "Just put it in there, and if nobody signs up, then you can send me a gift and I'll send you a gift." And about 200 people signed up, and so people were wrapping random handmade gifts and sending them to their friends or the people from the hub in different parts of the country
in July.
A little bit of July happiness.
Brilliant. So what sort of things frustrate you?
I think that it's hard sometimes when people join and expect instant results.
Yeah.
Because that's not the way it works. And also when people say, "Oh, but I've been with you for 3 months, and in that time I've had loads of sales on Etsy, and I've only had a couple of sales with you." And Etsy literally spend $2 million a day on advertising. Obviously, they're on the TV. They've been going since 2015. Everyone's heard of them. So it's a little bit like, I'm pedaling as fast as I can, but I'm never going to be that fast. and nor would I want to. So yeah, I think it's when people want kind of overnight results, and sometimes external factors, like the post office, not shipping overseas. So we had a whole thing, and that it's not even right now. There's big sorting offices that have got bags and bags and bags of stuff to go overseas because they're not taking them at the international kind of departure points until they've got space.
Yeah,
that's not even in the news now.
Yeah, I know it was it's better than it was, but it was a real problem at one point, wasn't it? We've got one client I'm specifically thinking of that they had thousands of pounds worth of stuff just go missing. It was almost certainly just dropped in some sort of warehouse or depot somewhere, and it never made it, and they had to reproduce and reship. All sorts of
external factors, really. The kind of things that are just awful, but you just can't do anything about it.
Yeah. Okay. So, what's the legacy that you want to leave?
I think it's really so to have a place. My goal would be to have the British Craft House running on about 1,000 sellers. So I think so that it's really, I suppose, like like where you can go into a shop and you're going to find something that you want.
Yeah.
So it's really kind of the go-to place for a special gift, or something that's handmade. I always liken the website a bit to, when you go to a village and you've gone there maybe to walk the dog or for an errand, and there's a really lovely shop, and you kind of don't need anything, but you go in because it's really appealing from the outside, and then when you go in, it's a little bit like Alice in Wonderland, that there's so many really nice things, and you leave with kind of a really nice paper bag with wrap things in tissue paper, and absolutely none of it you needed, but it's all stuff that you really, really like. And then when you get it home and you think about the people you bought it for, you kind of want to keep it for yourself because it's all so nice. And I think that's, that's kind of the feel of the British Craft House. And I'd really love it to be. I mean, there is no, if you were to say to someone on the high street, where would you go to buy something handmade? They would say Etsy. 99% they would say Etsy. And obviously there's Amazon Handmade as well now, and they're both huge juggernauts, dominating the place. And I would I just like there to be a little space where people can say, what about the British Craft House? You'll have a really good experience there, and actually it's British, and you're buying local, it's much less air miles and all of that kind of
Excellent.
Nice stuff. So, I think just to have somewhere reliably British where you can buy something that's like really high quality and that you'll probably keep forever.
Super. And what do you see as some of your biggest challenges?
I think that at the moment, cost of living is definitely the biggest challenge on kind of two fronts, really. With a lot of the sellers would like to give up their day job. Lots of them in the last few years have gone part-time, nurses, teachers, lollipop ladies, and a lot of them this year have had to go back full-time just because they need money. So I think that combined with the cost of living, meaning that people don't necessarily need painted stones or handmade kind of trinkets, I think that's the biggest challenge. But I kind of think if we just hold tight and just keep going, that history kind of dictates that we'll come out the other side of it. So it's just I think it's just diversifying. And as I said, with people thinking, okay, what are people buying? Okay, people are buying things that maybe have more of a purpose for them. So just like during COVID, where people that made big things started making little letterbox gift type things, this is the year to start making useful things.
Yep.
So I think that that's the beauty of being a small business, that you can be agile. If you're a big scale business producing big quantities of things, you're fairly committed to what you're making. Whereas kind of on a small scale, people can kind of change direction. It's your whole, your whole big Brittany ferries going across the sea in your little boat. Your little boat can quickly change direction. And so that's what we will do as a platform, and what the sellers will need to do. But I think that come the other side, it will be it'll all be good.
Good. So you up for a couple of quick fire questions?
Go on then.
Great. So if you could go back to your younger self, what advice would you give yourself?
Go to university.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is there a story behind that, or?
Not really. I ran away and joined the Navy at 17. Luckily, the Navy let me sit my A-levels. When I left the Navy and I was looking at getting jobs, I very much didn't have a degree when I probably should have had one. That said, I would never swap the time I had in the Navy between 17 and 21. But my daughter at the moment is looking at joining the Royal Marine Band after A-levels, and I want to say to her, go to university, but I know that if I say that, she'll say no.
Okay, good. Any books, podcasts, resources you'd recommend? Obviously, your Virgin experience with getting a mentor there was definitely really good for you. Any specific resources? I'm
a bit of a Stephen Bartlett kind of.
Okay.
Yeah, a bit of a fangirl, and actually, I run listening to him because never really found the right beat on music for running. But actually, his podcast is so fascinating. The miles get eaten away a bit while I'm listening. I did go on a bit of a mission to Ideas Fest last year to hear him speak as well. So I'm kind of fairly stuck on him. I like Fern Cotton as well. I tend not to listen to hugely businessy podcasts, but I quite like to kind of have a mix. But no, Stephen Bartlett seems to get all the best people on, and every interview he does is so different than the one before. Brilliant,
good. What apps or bits of software have you found particularly helpful?
I use Snapseed for editing photos, and also Adobe Express. I love that. It's just so brilliant. I try not to have too much stuff on my phone actually, because I kind of fear that I don't even have the website kind of links or anything on my phone, because I always fear that I'm going to have fat fingers and do something wrong.
Unpick a bit of that black tape that's holding the website together.
But I'm a bit of a newbie to TikTok. In fact, I've just sublet TikTok to my 15-year-old for over the Easter holidays to see what she can do it. And I had March's social media plan was to try and do a reel every day on Instagram. And I did a reel at the weekend that's nearly at 20,000 views now, which is normally they're at like 2,000. I do like doing social media via apps, but no, I don't. I kind of don't have any time wasting apps like my husband does.
well, let's not drop him in it. Okay, good. Now we've already talked about your success of your following and things like that. But what would you say is your most successful lead generation tactic then for making sales, finding new customers?
I think my newsletter.
Your newsletter.
Yeah. I think that it's if ever I have to give one top tip, it's to build a newsletter, to build an audience, because I think that social media is quite flaky, and I run all of I do giveaways for our birthdays and Christmas and things like that. I do them all through our newsletter now, just because you can do a giveaway on Facebook and Facebook might decide to show it to 2% of your following. So I do it all through the newsletter, because at least then that you're kind of reaching people that have actively want to see you. And I just think it's something that everyone should do. And it does take, but it takes time to build it. So the sooner you start building it, the better, really. We had this lovely lady the other day, marketing by Minal, and she came did a workshop just for our sellers, which it was basically on start building your audience now.
Brilliant.
And actually a lot of them have started sending out newsletters already, which is good. But that would be my thoughts.
Very good. And I would normally ask then who's had the most influence on you. Would it be Stephen Bartlett, or would you pick somebody else?
Oh, I love Theopathetus. So I won. Do you know the Small Business Sunday that Theopathetus runs, where he picks 6 businesses every Sunday?
Yeah.
So I won that for my creative business, which was called Dotty Design. So I won that in 2011, which was not long after it had launched. And when I went to the first conference, which was in 2012, it was the first time that I felt like I might actually be a businesswoman, that I might actually, be credible. And it's the business, not the person, that wins it. And there was a point where I was kind of crossing over into the British Craft House, where I'd left Dotty Designs behind, really. And so then I had to win it again. And actually, I think it's 0.8% of people that enter win. So it's hard to win. And I managed to win it a second time, which was really cool. There's a conference every year. He has it in the ICC now. And he has the most amazing speakers. He's had Sarah Davies on and Deborah Meader, and obviously the Dragon. So he's been kind of omnipresent, if you like, with as my businesses have changed. And I like his little he comes up with little quotes on social media, and quite often it's about kind of keeping your head down and just staying in your own lane, doing your own thing, working hard. And I just like the kind of ethics, the kind of just the work ethic that he and to win it just takes forever. But that actually that he knows that if you keep entering, that you really want it, and that's that I think in business you have to persevere. You can't kind of do a U-turn at the first no. You just have to keep keep going and keep reinventing yourself until you finally find your final way, I suppose.
Yeah, and I've interviewed a couple of people recently that are ex-Royal Marines, and adapt and overcome is a phrase that comes out a lot, which sort of what you're saying there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Good. So, been fascinating talking to you, Susan. Really, really enjoyed it. If people would like to get hold of you or find out more about the British Craft House, what's the best way for them to do that?
So via the website, really, which is just www.thebritishcrafthouse.co.uk. And there's a contact button on there. So drop us a line. If people want to sell with us, there's an apply to sell button. And if people want to shop on there, it's full of gorgeousness. But that's and across social media, we are British Crafting on Twitter, because the British Craft House is just way too long for Twitter. But everywhere else, we're just British Craft House. So feel free to connect up with us. We are we're quite vocal everywhere. I think I think we're quite lucky on Facebook that we post sometimes 7 or 8 times a day, which is definitely not what the algorithm tells you to do. So it's not for the faint-hearted, but everything is beautiful. So do follow us, and then you'll have lovely art and creative things in your feed.
Lovely. Susan, thank you very much for sharing your experiences with us on ScaleUp Radio today.
Thank you, Kevin. Thanks for having me.
I hope you enjoyed that discussion, and if you're building and scaling your own business, you might well be interested in our book, The Entrepreneurial Scale-Up System. And it's exactly what it says on the tin. It's a practical handbook around scaling a business in a structured way. And you can order a copy on all your favorite online retailers, including an audio version, or you can find it and other supporting resources on our website, www.esusgroup.co.uk. That's esusgroup.co.uk, which is esusgroup.co.uk.
This has been a Monkey Pants Productions podcast.